Welcome to the Low Carb MD Podcast. No one is beyond help. No one is beyond hope. Nothing said on the Low Carb MD Podcast is medical advice. Please consult your own doctor before making any lifestyle changes.
Welcome to the Low Carb MD Podcast. Brian is going to be upset. No, Brian's had the pleasure of interviewing our guest several times, and so I'm excited to be interviewing. Actually, this is the second time I'm interviewing, once for our community on the Toward Health app, and now here on the Low Carb MD Podcast. I'm excited, and I'm excited for a number of reasons. One, I absolutely love this guest. Two, he's had an amazing career in fitness and in coaching, and as an author and as a speaker. He is now onto his third book, which I'm super excited about. And I've had the pleasure of seeing him talk. I've had the pleasure of seeing him talk more than one occasion. And I can tell you firsthand, he inspires everybody he talks to. His new book is coming out, Body Confident. By the time you hear this, it's definitely up for pre-order, and it'll probably be up for sale. The launch is very, very soon, and I'm excited to have Coach Bronson join us here on the Low Carb MD Podcast. Thanks for coming, Coach.
Hey, thanks for having me. I appreciate it. This has been a long time coming. I've been following you for a long time. Love what you're doing, and appreciate the opportunity to talk to your audience.
Yeah, and we should tell the audience, we actually we've done 3 conferences together. We did the Low Carb Cruise together in the Caribbean in June of 24. And we did a weight loss mindset that we put together here on the Toward app. And we are going to be doing the June Alaska cruise together, the Low Carb Cruise, which I'm super excited about. I absolutely love the people over at the Low Carb Cruise. I absolutely love them. And I'm so excited to be able to go there, and I'm bringing the whole family with me.
Hey, awesome.
Yeah, so that's going to be cool. So before we get into the book, Body Confident, which is a fantastic book, I want to talk about a little bit about weight loss, and I want to talk about true health.
Sure.
And how they may not be the same thing. And I think your journey sort of exemplifies that. So can you talk to people about your own sort of weight loss journey and the phases it went through?
Yeah.
Because I think that's powerful.
Yeah, and that's where a lot of the ideas and concepts that I kind of espouse or preach, the development of the methods that I use with my clients and people I talk to is coming from a lot of my experience of going up and going down and going up and going down in my weight, while kind of incrementally improving aspects of my health along the way that were separate from my weight. My weight went up and down, aspects of my health improved, or didn't improve, regardless of what was happening with my weight. So I started out the process in my mid to late 30s, about 245, 250 pounds. Got into fitness and got super fit. Started doing CrossFit, loved CrossFit, got into the fitness scene, the CrossFit scene specifically, ended up getting certified as a coach, opening a gym, got super in shape, lost a ton of fat, got down, 40, 50 pounds, and felt great for a long time, for many years. It wasn't until probably about 5 or 6 years into the process of really being all about fitness where I started realizing that there still were things that I wasn't happy with about how I could live my life. My quality of life hadn't improved. I had urgent bowels. I had IBS. I had aches and pains, and some of those things were actually getting worse instead of getting better. When I started working out, it was, hey, I'm working out 4 or 5, sometimes 6 days a week, and I feel fantastic. As I got older, as my nutrition aspects didn't really change, but my fitness improved, then I started getting to a point where the fitness started deteriorating, where I was doing 2 or 3 days a week and feeling like crap. I was getting hurt consistently, pulled calves, pulled groins, herniated discs, torn labrums, torn meniscus in my knee. Like over and over, things were happening. Even just the chronic aches and pains that prevented me from working out all the time. Um, it just started it started making me wonder, like, what was I missing? What else could there be? I'm doing all the right things, right? I had gotten to a point where I did work on my nutrition. I stopped eating processed foods. I stopped eating a lot of um, processed carbs specifically. I was eating all whole foods, a lot of leafy greens, more, um, squashes and zucchinis and sweet potatoes and all that type of stuff. But I hadn't really made a change to prioritizing protein, prioritizing animal meat, reducing the vegetables and those things. I hadn't stopped drinking alcohol. And that was the first thing that really opened my eyes to the impact of nutrition and combining nutrition and fitness together was when I stopped drinking alcohol. And in a 3-week period, I lost 10 pounds of body fat. That's what kind of made me go, wait a second, what is going on? And it wasn't just the body fat. This is where we talk about fat loss versus health. It wasn't just the body fat loss. That was the really dramatic thing that made me go, wait a second, what's going on? Because even though I was working out, I had put a bunch of that weight back on. I lost that weight in 3 weeks. And it was like, okay, something's happening here. If you add on top of that, I slept better. I felt better. I had more energy. There were things that were happening in how I was able to live my daily life that improved as well. It really just kind of planted a seed in my mind that there's something that has to do with what we're eating in combination with how we're moving our body that makes a bigger impact than just weight loss. Because I had lost the weight and it really didn't make me feel better about how I was living.
I think it's such an amazing. So the problem right now in medicine is we literally say it's just the weight loss.
Mm-hmm.
Diabetes is just about weight loss.
Yeah.
Cholesterol is just about weight loss. You have to lose weight, right? But the reality is there's a lot more to it. And it's so easy. Like, just think about it. If weight is just about budgeting calories and you eat, 1,000 calories of sugar,
Mm-hmm.
are you going to be moving your body an hour later, 5 hours later, 10 hours later? Probably not, right? If you're eating 1,000 calories of alcohol, are you going to be moving your body an hour later, 2 hours later, 5 hours later, 10
No,
hours later?
you'll be dead.
Yeah, probably not, right? Well, some people will be dead. Some people won't be, right? 10
Yeah,
shots, right?
right. Yeah.
Right. So, but if you eat 1,000 calories of protein and fat, will you be moving your body? How you feel? What will you be doing an hour later, 2 hours later,
Absolutely.
5 hours later, 10 hours? So just if you break it up by macronutrients, and you think about it, like, it doesn't make sense. Energy partitioning, right? This idea of energy budgeting, right? It doesn't make sense.
No,
A
never
1,000
has.
calories of alcohol makes me not move. I'm
Yes.
dead on a floor.
Yes.
A
Yes.
1,000 calories of steaks makes me. So it's not about the weight loss. It's about the fueling.
It's not,
So I wanted to hear your,
yeah, I would say it's not even about the fueling because even using the word fuel when we talk about food completely negates any concept of nutrition.
yeah, yes,
It's
yes. So
about
nourishment.
nutrition, nourishment. Absolutely. It's about
Yeah.
function. And this is one of the big core concepts that I try to express and message in the book is macros are not nutrition. Nutrition is nutrition. We don't eat to fuel our bodies. We eat to enable function, right? Our metabolism isn't about burning energy. Burning energy is a subset of the things that our metabolism requires in order to function. And function is how do things work? Metabolism is every single process that we have in our body that allows our body to live. That is metabolism. Metabolism is hormone function, cardiovascular function. It's neurological, it's physiological, it's biological. It has nothing to do with fuel.
One of the now, I haven't seen you talk twice, and you've shared this, sort of these two pictures that you've shown, sort of a before and
Mhm.
after. and you show how much weight you lost between those two pictures.
Yeah.
Largely, I think you mentioned the cleaning up the diet and alcohol,
Mhm.
and yet you were still inflamed.
Yeah.
You still, and that story, after you told it to our community, on the Torrent app, people contacted me. They're like, "Oh my God, the same thing happened to me." Like, the same thing happened to me. And I would love it if you can share that story and that vulnerability,
Yeah. Yeah.
because it's, there's so many people out there who resonated with that, as, you know, as funny as you make it,
Yeah.
and as lighthearted
Right.
as you make it.
Yeah, and this is when I talked about I went up and down. So I started around 245. I got down to about 195, 200, just through exercise, just in CrossFit. I kind of averaged around 200 pounds, but I still felt like crap. I still had IBS. I still had urgent bowels. I still didn't feel good about myself. I still had these things, and it got to a point where, like I said, 5 or 6 years in. So a little bit more background. The thing that kind of got me going at the beginning in my mid to late 30s was the picture that you're referencing with me sitting on the beach. Went to the beach with my family. My daughter took a picture. I looked at that picture and I was like, who in the world is this guy? I'm sitting there. I got my gut hanging out. I got man boobs. It was not an image, the visual representation of who I thought I was, and the identity that I currently had. So I realized something had to change. So that's where I said, okay, I need to start doing some things that get me to where the reality of my life is not this beached whale that I saw on the beach. And that's where I got into fitness, started doing some things to make improvements. Made a lot of improvements. I looked great. I felt great. Everything was awesome. And then about 5 or 6 years into owning my CrossFit gym, we had a pool party at one of my members' homes, and we're all out there having a blast. I looked at pictures again after that party, posted all over Facebook, all over social media, and there was a picture of me standing on the diving board, getting ready to dive into the pool, and I swear it was the exact same dude that was sitting on the beach 7 years before, 6, 7 years before. It was like, wait a second, I'm doing everything right, or so I thought. This doesn't make any sense. I'm not doing, I'm not going out anymore and eating a pizza for lunch or dinner. I'm not eating, 2 baskets of French fries at Red Robin. I'm not doing a large pad thai with 2 sides of spring rolls. I'm not doing coffee with more sugar than coffee in it anymore. I stopped doing those things. I'm working out 3, 4, 5, sometimes 6 days a week. What is going on? And then on top of that, seeing the aches and the pains, like I talked about, getting hurt all the time. I got to the point where I could only work out 2 days a week. Everything started going in the opposite direction. The struggles that I had with IBS, I talk about this a lot because I lost 70 pounds total in my journey, but I didn't lose 150, 200 pounds. I see people now who are using carnivore to lose 200, 300 pounds, and freaking amazing. I lost, I regained my freedom from being living with an umbilical cord connected to a bathroom everywhere I went. That is my 200 pounds in the quality of life, the anxiety and the stress of how I live my life. I couldn't take a trip, whether it's planes, trains, or automobiles, without going to the bathroom before I left. If hopefully the plane or the train or the bus I was on, whatever, had a bathroom, when we were going, the first thing I did was, where are the bathrooms? I need to be close enough in case something happens. Um, People didn't want to be in enclosed spaces with me because it could be deadly it could be bad for their health, right? This was how I lived my life. And it was, you know, it's something I again make light of, because looking back at it now, thinking that it was normal is kind of a ludicrous, hysterical thing now. That was just how I just thought that was my life. It wasn't until I could live without it that I realized, wait a second, I was doing this to myself out of ignorance, not because I wanted to. I hated it. But once I learned what good nutrition was, it was what I was eating that was making this change. Um, it really kind of clicked. And again, all of these little pieces going into it wasn't about the fuel. It was about my body wasn't, there's some nuance here. My body was functioning exactly the way it needed to function based on what I was feeding it. The impact of what I was feeding it was deteriorating and ruining my quality of life.
I think people don't want to admit this. I think doctors don't want to admit it.
Yeah.
We now have data that diet composition improves, sort of leaky gut and irritable bowel. We have data that improves mental health outcomes, including depression, anxiety, schizophrenia, and bipolar.
Yes.
We have evidence that diet composition can improve diabetes, right? Inflammation, chronic pain. These are direct interventional trials. And yet there's still something in modern medicine that says it doesn't matter, it's all about calories. And it doesn't, and does that frustrate you, having been through what you've been through, that not just the weight loss, not just the alcohol cessation, but like self-experimentation and tinkering and going from such a drastic person, somebody who's like literally living on a toilet?
Yep.
Does it frustrate you to see the medical community not really waking up? And the fact that you have to be out here sort of giving this message, writing in your books, giving it, telling people in your talks, because otherwise they're not going to hear it anywhere else.
Exactly.
And the second question is, so that's question one. Does it piss you off? And the second question I have is, we see this all too often. I think when you're a person who's gone through your own journey and you climb out of it, you then realize what you accepted as normal
Yes.
was in fact not normal.
Yes.
And can you talk to some degree about how that helps you be a great coach, and how that helps you coach other people?
Mm-hmm.
And so I'd love you to tackle these two. They're two tough topics, but maybe we can talk about them as much as you'd like.
Yeah, yes, it frustrates me because, like you said, we know, and even stuff in the past, right? My personal experience, I know I've known some medical doctors, some family medicine clinicians, people in other spaces who tried to convince me when I decided to go carnivore. I had more than one intervention experiences where people who knew better than me tried to talk me out of doing this. And honestly, it's one of the motivations for why I write books and why I make this content and why I'm getting my master's and thinking about going beyond that, because, I want to have the experience, the knowledge, the training, the credentials to combat what I think is kind of an institutionalized pride and arrogance that is killing people, essentially. People, people like you, people like other doctors in the space who have said, wait a second, what I'm doing isn't working. I respect immensely, because you've been able to say everything that I've been doing isn't working. I've been taught wrong and learn about what actually works, and stop buying into just because a book says something doesn't mean that's actually the way it needs to be. You're able to look at what's in front of you, and that is honestly the biggest missing piece, in my opinion, in scientific method today. Nobody's looking at what's in front of us. So many people discount anecdotal evidence, discount the n=1, discount the fact that there are millions at this point in time, there are millions of people across the world whose lives are being changed by cutting out processed food, reducing their carb intake, and eating more animal meat. And it is such a wave of change that the institutionalized medicine is fighting against. And we can get into all the conspiracy things and the finance, the money stuff.
Conspiracy,
It's not conspiracy. I understand it's not at all conspiracy, but just the idea of what are the roots of that, and we know it's all about money, essentially. Money, power, control, politics. We can talk about socialism and communism. There's so many different branches that we can get into at the underlying, or we should say overriding reasonings behind where this is coming from. But
it's funny you say that. I want to explore that a little bit, but I'm
yeah,
going to let you finish your train of thought there.
yeah, I think it's really about freedom for me. The underlying concept realization that I've had, which ties directly to body confidence, is individual freedom is an individual choice. Once you know that something is working for you, you now have a choice to continue doing it or not. And I want to enlighten, inform, and educate as many as people as possible so that they now have a choice. A lot of people don't have a choice because they don't know. So the things that they're doing based off of all the information that's out there is actually limiting their freedom on a personal, mental health perspective, on a personal physical freedom perspective, on a quality of life level. So if I can educate people and fight and combat that, now what I'm doing is I am putting the power in the individual's hands. They now know there's another way to do this, and it's up to them. It's up to people listening to this podcast to take that and run with it and take it to the next level.
It's such an when I look at the problem, right? So if you look at, because you mentioned sort of what you put air quotes, sort of saying conspiracy, because I think it's very difficult to understand how we got into this mess where a doc is telling a patient that it doesn't matter what you eat, right?
Yeah.
Imagine you had a doctor 15 years ago who said, Coach or Bronson, you got to get rid of the alcohol.
Mm-hmm.
You need to get it out of your life. Imagine you had a doctor that said, Bronson, you cannot be eating this. Look at what your life is. Look at what it's doing to you.
Imagine if I had a doctor who even asked the question.
Right? Exactly. So
what are you eating? They don't even, that's not even part of the intake, right? There isn't even.
Or knew what was going on with your bowels.
Right.
Right? Who knew you well enough to know this is not your best self.
Yep.
This is not who you are. So imagine you had somebody in your life like that, right? And what else is a doctor supposed to do but be there, be that person, somebody who makes you your healthiest version of yourself, right? Who helps you attain health. So now when we talk about what are the barriers to that, well, let's think about it. Let's think about that doctor. Let's think about it. He's got a $500,000 in debt from med school. The only person paying him is the insurance company, right? The insurance company is his employer.
Pretty much, yeah.
Right? And the insurance company doesn't care about you, right? And the insurance company just cares about the bottom line.
Yep.
Right? Who else pays that doctor? Pharmaceutical companies. Free meals, lectures that are sponsored by, that they sponsor. They go out and give free stuff, and they make the doctor's job easy. Here we could fix the problem your patients that you care about have. Just take this pill.
Yep.
So who owns the doctor? It's the insurance company and the pharmaceutical industry. Right? They own them. And then who owns the doctor? This mantra of calories has permeated, right, modern medicine, and that diet doesn't matter. Take a pill.
Yep.
Right. And the reason why that's permeated is Coca-Cola and General Mills and Kellogg's have paid the Global Energy Balance Network, all sorts of different athletic organizations, money to prop up the researchers over 5 decades that have echoed this message. So they are now, now the doctors are not brainwashed, but they've been propagandized for 50 years.
Well, and it's not even just the doctors, it's society in general. The marketing, the propaganda goes beyond just the medical institution. It's general population as well. And the reason being, if you can, I will say the reason being, but the impact of that is if everything we eat is just fuel and it's just about managing fuel, then it is up to the individual and willpower and self-control. And it's the individual's fault if they're not healthy, because they didn't manage, they didn't moderate, they didn't control their intake. So it takes the evaluation of the quality of the food and what's actually happening in the background. So you have researchers and scientists who are deliberately manipulating the addictiveness and the appeal of fake food so that people intentionally overeat. But then we have the health and medical industry that is saying it's your fault because you're overeating. So it's a red herring. It's that don't look at the man behind the curtain, but it's on purpose.
Yeah, so I think, but you brought up an amazing point, right? So one, the doctor is completely captured, the healthcare industry is completely captured. So, when I hear your story, and you went through this on your own, I mean, it's truly like a hero story, and we hear it over and over again on this podcast. It's a hero story where somebody climbs out of poor health on their own. A lot of times it's self-experimentation.
Mm-hmm.
That's inspiring. That's beyond inspiring. But I think people out there, the problem that people need to understand is the system out there, the systems we have, the reason why it has to be your responsibility as an individual. Okay. The reason why is that you guys all listening to this, whoever's hearing this, needs to do the work is we don't have systems there to help you.
Right.
It's only the Coach Bronsons and the Toward Healths and the Arizona metabolic health, practices, right? That are Brian's practice. It's just these small beacons that really are there to sort of help you out.
Yep. Yeah. The only way to avoid the pitfalls of the current system is to avoid the system altogether. And if you become healthy on your own, then it becomes a non-issue.
Yeah, absolutely. So I wanna talk about that further, but we had another point.
Yep.
We had another point we were gonna hit. Well, let's stick on it. Let's explore this a little bit.
Okay.
What do you think, if you can envision a world that would have helped, and I know you're working on it already and you're already doing it,
Mm-hmm.
what were the things that would have helped Coach 10 years ago?
Wow, that's a good question.
What
On
would
the
have picked him
grand,
up out of the gutter? What would have inspired him? I mean, you went through the military, which
yeah.
to me, it sounds like, a bunch of brothers picking each other up,
Mm-hmm.
I'd imagine, I
Sure,
don't know.
sure.
Thank you for serving, by the way, but what would have helped you?
Well, if we're going big picture, perfect world vision, I wouldn't have needed help because there wouldn't have been the misinformation and the ignorance about what actual health and fitness and quality of life meant and how to get it. It would be part of just the way that we live our lives. So understanding that whole foods, animal-based nutrition is the foundation of nutrition for human health. Understanding that physical activity in a variety of ways, primarily focused on resistance training, is the way our bodies are meant to grow and maintain. I think just the basics of what does it mean to be healthy? What does it mean to have a good quality of life? If we can get to a point where people understand that at the core and start thinking critically about, is what I'm doing getting me to these core common, just the basic things, then it gives people an opportunity to evaluate better because they're not listening to influencer so said this, doctor so said this, the FDA, the USDA, NIH, whatever said this. They can compare that to, okay, this is what they're saying, but at the root, this is what the human body needs. Does that pair up with that? If it doesn't, then I'm going to ignore it. And I think that's what would have helped me at the beginning, just understanding what are the basic things that we need and it being accurate and correct and actually applicable to my life.
So basically like a reasonable nutrition class, and in high school or college or something like that.
Based on the evidence of what works, not the evidence what is seen in a lab.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
that is calories is a perfect example of that. I the probably the two biggest things that blow people's minds when they work with me is that I don't do calories. I don't even talk about calories other than don't use them in any of the things that we do, and all the mindset stuff that we do that has nothing to do with health and fitness. But when I talk about calories, and I have a lot of this information is in the book, talking about how if everything is based on calories, how are we actually enabling function of our body? What systems in our body use calories? When we look at,
None.
energy, we define energy as ATP. So how does calories equate to ATP? It doesn't. There is no equation. ATP is a chemical process. There is no heat energy created. So how are we using a heat model to determine something that doesn't generate heat when we talk about energy? Because there's more to it than that. Calories can't impact hormone response. Calories can't stimulate muscle protein synthesis. Calories can't improve mitochondrial function. Calories can't enhance neurotransmitter function. We could go on and on and on. There isn't a single process in our metabolism that utilizes calories. So why in the hell are we talking about calories ever? It just doesn't make sense to me. And that's because in a lab somewhere, somebody started burning food and going, oh, this is what happens when I burn food, right? I could eat a piece of paper and I'm intaking calories. What is that doing for my health? Absolutely nothing. So the lab versus what's actually happening in our bodies in real life, that is what we need to look at when we talk about how do we educate people? What's actually happening?
Yeah, I mean, I think you hit the nail on the head. Energy is not everything, right? Energy is not everything,
Yep.
right? And there are so many silos for energy. Fat's one silo, the organs are a silo, right? The muscles a silo, the microbiome's a silo, the rate of absorption, like so many places that energy can go besides, how efficiently they get burned,
Yes.
right? Where the idea of using calories to sort of understand weight, it's just so fundamentally flawed. And the easiest way to expose that trope is like, fine, go live off of alcohol, calories of alcohol,
Sure.
right? That's
Just
like the
stop
easiest way.
eating. Stop
Yeah,
eating. If
yeah,
you want to lose weight and think it's about calories, stop eating for 30 days.
yeah, yeah,
How
yeah.
hard is that? How well do you, how, what happens to your body when you do that? And this is what I talk about, looking at the critical thinking and is this really the way based on what your body needs? This is why I'm not a fan of the overuse of fasting, because we're a lot of proponents right now in just health, and we'll just say in health and fitness in general, the proponents of fasting are, well, you have to starve yourself of nutrition in order to improve metabolic function. That is a logical that doesn't make logical sense, to starve yourself in order to improve function. Most people need to just eat the right things in adequate amounts and move their body adequately, and they'll get all the same benefits and more than if they just stopped eating for 24 hours or 48 hours or 72 hours or 20 days, whatever fast you're trying to do. It's about giving your body what it needs mentally, physically, and nutritionally.
I,
Without
th-
three of those, you're not going to make the progress you want to make.
I think that's really hard for people. It's so hard for people to drop. It's like, it's my fault. I should have been counting better. It's
Yep.
me. I should have been tracking better. I should, pay more. I just can't do it. I have a lot of, you hear a lot of this negative self-talk
Hmm.
and, learned helplessness. And I know it's hard for people to sort of, it's very difficult to climb out of that.
Yeah.
A
Yeah.
lot of people have been holding on to that for their whole lives. You know, how do you
hmm
people, how do you manage that? Because I mean, your own story is like, hey, it's not about the calories. Look, I kept my weight was one thing, but my bowel function was something else.
Yeah.
You
Yeah.
know, how do you relay that message to the average person?
Yeah.
I know you
Get,
touch on it in the book, you know,
yep. Yep.
but maybe you can give some people some tips from the book. You know?
Yeah, absolutely. And it's about concepts over protocols. It's about principles of what works. And I talked about this at what is the core things that the body needs. And once we can understand that at the base of function, there are only a few things that you need to get right in order for to see improvement. We think we have to be 100%. We think we have to do all these things because there are so many people out there trying to sell their niche product, their niche service, their niche method, this specific peptide or molecule or enzyme or whatever it may be, DNA strand that they've discovered that no one else knows about, that is going to change the entire process for the whole world. That's all BS, right? Eat the most nutrient dense thing you can from where you are. For some people, that means I need to replace my protein shakes with a steak. For other people, that means I need to stop doing milkshakes and start eating protein shakes. Wherever you're at, it's the little changes that get you closer to the basic of human needs. So nutrient density. What is the most nutrient thing I can eat? Animal meat, we know, is at the top of the list. What is the most bioavailable foods that I can eat to actually get the nutrition? Or what are the things that I'm doing that are preventing that nutrition from getting into my body? Alcohol is a big one. Maybe I'm eating a whole animal meat. Maybe I've gone all whole foods and animal meat, but I'm still drinking alcohol. I am completely shutting down my body's ability to process and utilize that food and the nutrients I'm getting. So I'm fighting against myself now. So it doesn't have to be big stuff. What am I doing to help my natural satiety signals? Am I eating enough fat and enough protein to trigger the hormones that help me feel full? And eating enough that I'm full and satisfied for long enough in between meals so that I don't have cravings and want to eat snacks all day long? Am I choosing foods that allow me to feel full? Those are the basic three things we need from a nutrition perspective. You don't need to worry about where is your water coming from? Are you eating out of plastic or paper? If you're struggling with just making the basic things happen, stop worrying about the little things that you see some Instagram person say is killing you, right? It's the fact that you're still drinking alcohol in general. It's the fact that you're getting most of your food from processed sources, even if it says keto on the label,
You know,
right? Those are the things that are holding you back.
I think you're echoing a point here, which is it is okay to need mentorship.
Oh, for sure.
It is okay to need a mentor, right? It is
It's
okay
recommended.
if you cannot, you navigate all of this stuff on your own. It
Yeah.
is okay to ask for help, right? It is okay to be confused,
Yes.
right? But don't let that paralyze you, right?
Well,
And these are the things that you say, you know, that I've heard you say that have been moved me, that have moved my patients, the people in our community, like the people listening to this podcast. It's like, it's okay,
yes.
right?
It's
Like
it's
there are resources out there to help you
yeah,
to navigate this.
there are. And here's the thing, it's not just okay in the current state of where we are in the information age, in particularly health and nutrition. It's almost expected that you're going to be confused. I don't have a single person that comes to me that I don't expect they're confused about something, because there is so much conflicting, wrong, and misapplied or out of context information that's being put out there. How are people supposed to know if something applies to them, where they are, what they're actually trying to do? If you layer that on top of the misconceptions that many people have about what health even means, the mismatch of all the puzzle pieces creates the problem where people are, where they try something. This is one of the most common things that I see. And this is one of the reasons why I wrote this book. I want this book. And if you go to the Amazon page, you look up the book, it says it right there. The book is a critical thinking guide to your health journey. This book that I'm putting out, I wrote specifically to help people have a framework to evaluate information and help make the choices that are going to move them in the direction they need to go without completely disrupting their lives. That's what it's about. And because what I see every single day is I've been following so-and-so for the past year, and I saw progress for the first 3 or 6 months, and then everything started going backwards. Now I have a bad relationship with the food, or I put all the weight back on, or this problem or that problem. And it's like the communities and the people that are out there, the struggles have to do with a lot of the information is based on individual experience, and it worked for me, so it should work for everybody. And there's no context. There's no application of evaluating what the individual that's going to follow the program needs versus what that program actually does. And that's where you asked earlier about coaching and how do you apply your experience to coaching. That's where that comes into play. My experience, I looked at what are the common threads that I went through, that the people that I work through have gone through, that other people that I know and what their clients have gone through. What are the common threads across the board, regardless of the specific protocol? What are the common things that have worked for everyone? And it's the basics. You have to start with the basics. And too many people are trying to cut the tree down from the limbs instead of going to the trunk.
I think when you say the basics, everybody's got a different set of basics, but in our clinic, and I'd love to hear what you think of this, we use the levers. Like, okay, when you're confused, lost, start at different levers you can pull.
Sure.
Are my carbohydrates low enough? Is my meal frequency low enough?
Mm-hmm.
Or does it need to go up? Does it need to go down? Am I snacking? Am I moving my body adequately?
Mm-hmm.
Right? Next is, do I need to remove fat? Right? Do I need to lower fat? Am I adding too much fat? Am I doing nuts and sour cream on everything? Or do I need to consider adding fat?
Sure.
Which one of those is going to work for me? How's my sleep? Right? Am I stressed out? Do I have mental health issues that I need to address? Right? Do I have a sense of community, purpose, fulfillment? Right? Those are our sort of levers that we hit. Is that what you mean when you say back to basics? What do you mean?
Yeah, very similarly. It's more about there's some overlap in what I define as my levers or my basics. The things that I look at are primarily three things. There's mindset, there's nutrition, and there's fitness. So with mindset, it's about knowing what you want, who you are, and where you're trying to go. So, and what's the plan, right? So that's where what do I need to do? What am I trying to do? Do I need to add or do I need to subtract? It's based on where you're trying to go. If you're looking at weight loss, is weight loss really the thing you want to fix, or is it a metabolic dysfunction that needs to get fixed and then the weight loss will happen? So working through what is the actual root issue that you're trying to improve, then you can look at what are the options available and if they fit that goal. When we talk about nutrition, I talked about, nutrient density, bioavailability, and satiety. Those are the three things. The frequency, whatever else, it really has to do with adequate. I love the word adequate because it removes the recommendations or any boxes that we have to put. It forces you as an individual to determine if you're getting enough or too much. Are you getting adequate protein intake? Are you getting adequate micronutrient intake? Is your body actually able to access that intake once you get it? Those are the types of things to look at. From a movement perspective, I love what you said. Just move your body. Move well, move often, and move weight. Those are my basic levers. Are you moving at all? If you are, what are you doing? Are you doing it consistently? Are you challenging yourself, or are you just going through the motions? So those are the basic things. I call them the 9 tenets of health.
Yeah, I absolutely. I can't agree more. It's funny. It's like we're saying the same thing in slightly two different tongues,
Mm-hmm. Yep.
Absolutely. I can't agree enough. There was another topic we had a little bit earlier. We talked about, sort of two things, and one of which was, are you sort of angry at the at the medical profession, the healthcare profession, the are you angry? And then
I don't know if I'm angry. It's kind of to be, I'm a little bit jaded, and I understand the way the world works, and there's always going to be something like this. I think I'm in a self-serving way. I'm thankful because it's giving me a direction. It's giving me a focus and a passion for something that I feel like I can contribute something positive to society. So yes, I'm angry at, the misleading and misinformation that's out there setting people in the wrong direction. But I'm also kind of thankful because it gives me a purpose.
yeah, 100%. But I'm curious, has your own journey, uh, has your own journey helped? How's it affected the people around you? Forget about the clients you have.
Mm.
I mean, I see you and Natalie, and you guys look like an amazing support. And I'd imagine sort of everybody around you sees that what you guys are doing, how you guys keep healthy, how you guys help other people. And I can only imagine that there's a community around that. I'm just curious, like,
Mm.
it's sort of, we're stuck in all of our little silos. Like me
Mhm.
and Ro are here, me and Rosette, Rosette's got her ways that she's impacting, this community. I have my way that I'm impacting the community. But we look around, we look at our kids, we got 3 kids that thank God are healthy. I have all the obesity genes and all of them are healthy. We have people around us that are starting to pay attention and see what we're doing and thinking to themselves, gosh, maybe I could be doing that. I'm curious, like around you, how has it impacted the people that, because people choose you and you go and help them, but I'm sure there's always impact on the people around us, our family, our loved ones, our community, sometimes our churches. Brian, gets tracked down at church, and people from the school with Wilnell would be impacted by. I'm just curious, how have you infiltrated the community, or how have you felt you've had an impact on your community or your
Yeah.
family or both?
Yeah, it'd be my family more than anything. My community, we move a lot. We moved actually 3 times in the last 3 years. So we haven't really had a chance to get established in a community locally.
Well, you had a
Something that
gym,
we're
so
something
that's a
we're working on.
community.
Well, yeah,
Yeah.
previously, yeah, back, before COVID, I sold my gym right before COVID, thank goodness. Um, but yeah, I mean, so that was obviously one way, being in the community, owning a gym, having the community come to me for help and support. My family, it's a mixed bag. The thing that's difficult about that question is it's very hard when it comes to family and friends directly seeing the impact you're having, because for the most part, they are resistant to the change that they're seeing in you because it's a reflection of what's not happening with them. And in many cases, over time, when they see all these things happening, they will start being curious and they will start trying things and they will start experimenting, or at least be open to the idea of doing things differently. But it's not something that they're going to talk to you about, because they don't want, there's that pride factor. There's that, I don't want him to know that, you know, whatever, for whatever reason, that's there. It's something that I see happen a lot. Um, my mom specifically was on board kind of from the beginning, more as a support for me when I opened the gym. She started working with me when she turned 60. So it's 10 years. She turned 70 this year. Um, she was my first personal training client. She's been my longest. She's been a client of mine, air quotes client, because she's not like she's ever paid anything. Um, she's worked with me for 10 years. And, she started training. She started doing CrossFit with me at the gym. She started doing a carnivore diet. She's gone back and forth with a bunch of different things. And she's 70 years old now, and she loves, she still posts in our Discord group, hey, I worked out today, had a blast, set a new PR, did this thing, whatever. Um, so for me, seeing that is kind of an affirmation that I'm doing something good, because here's my mom at 70 doing things that for the previous 60 years of her life, she never would have considered doing. and I was able to impact and be part of that influence on her to improve her quality of life. And that is the biggest thing. One of the biggest motivators for me is I went through watching my grandparents pass away, deteriorate, become completely different human beings than who they were with me growing up. And I don't want that to happen to her or my dad or anybody. I don't think anybody should have to experience a loved one fade away to nothing years before they actually pass. Right. And I think many people today start dying in their 30s, and it takes them 30, 40, 50 years to actually pass away. And that, I think, is completely unnecessary. And I want to change that.
Well, the problem there is, I mean, you're absolutely right. It's once high school gym class is over, if you ask me. The minute high school gym class is over, you're on your way to fatty liver and pre-diabetes and diabetes if you don't already have it. Because we go out there into the workforce, you're working 8, maybe 10-hour days, you're traveling 1 hour back and forth, right? 10 hours of your day are gone,
Yeah.
maybe 12.
Yeah. Yep.
Right. And you were never given a solid education about nutrition. Certainly the schools didn't do it. The doctors didn't do it. The trainers didn't do it. The government didn't do it. Nobody did it. Right. So, and you begin dying. Man,
Yes.
I'm gonna steal that. Most of us are begin dying. You said 30, I'm gonna say 20.
Yeah, it
You
could.
know,
Yeah. Well, and it did, for me, I was at least lucky enough to be in the military, like you said, and it wasn't until 24, so still in my 20s, where I got a regular job and started the routine. I got out of the army in my early, 24, 25. And that was kind of where things started going downhill.
I think one of the big things is people don't realize that, right?
Yeah.
People don't realize that, and some people it's even earlier. You were in the military, you always liked sports. I remember you mentioning that, but some people are dying earlier. I was dying at age 4.
Yeah. Well, and yeah, we talk about now where, childhood obesity, child diabetes, they're starting to, what is it, recommend weight loss surgery for kids under 15 or 13, something like that
You're
now,
triggering me, man. You're
right?
triggering me. Don't trigger me.
Um,
Don't trigger.
Ozempic for kids now.
Oh, don't
Like, it's
trigger
just,
me. Don't trigger me.
it's
Yeah.
ridiculous. Yeah. So,
Yeah. It is ridiculous. It absolutely is ridiculous. You got me triggered, coach. Um, well, coach, well, here, let's go into that a little bit.
sure.
You've been joining us from your vacation. You've been so gracious, but let's explore that a little bit. One of the things at the SMHP, which I know you'll be accredited pretty soon, I'd imagine, um, is bringing attention to things like that. Like there's something wrong, right? There's something wrong. Um, there's something wrong in society. There's something wrong with the trainers out there. There's something wrong with the coaches out there, and we need to do better, right? And I think that's what this book is about. It's just like we need to do better. Body Confident. When I read it, I was like, okay, this is setting the stage.
Hmm.
This is setting the stage for anybody, any BS trainer that's out there, any BS coach that's out there. Like you need a system in place that's better than what we currently have. And that's one of the things when you mentioned, the Pediatric Society saying, 13-year-olds should have bariatric surgery and injection drugs. I mean, I'm right there with you. The minute I see that, I'm like, we need to do better. And so we published at the SMHP, just like you're publishing this book, we published a statement saying this is biased, right? They have a bias against doing low carb, which, by the way, they say they need 25 blood tests and imaging tests to do safely, right? A low carb diet, telling the kids, but they can get bariatric surgery, no problem.
That's crazy. That's
Um,
absolutely crazy.
yeah. So it's a problem, and you got me triggered. You got me triggered,
Well,
and
that's
I
good. I
can't.
mean, I think more people need to get triggered.
Well, so I can't wait for you to get more and more involved in SMHP, and I'm gonna basically foreshadowing what I cannot wait. We need somebody like Coach Bronson there, um, helping people debunk what's out there, and there's so much left to explore. And I know you're interested in that too. There's so many questions left in exercise,
Very much. Yeah.
and energy partitioning and the ketogenic sort of lifestyle that are still left there. So I'm curious if you can just talk a bit about that.
Yeah, well, the first thing you talked about with the coaches and trainers and whatever else being, we need to do better. That's a subtext to the book in that there's a bunch of free downloads and free materials you get when you get the book. You can go to the website, download all this other stuff, because there was probably almost another third of the book that I had to take out that didn't fit with the overall message for the general population, because I also had in the back of my mind that this could be a framework for coaches and trainers and professionals to use to develop programs around how to help their clients. So I had a bunch of other additional stuff in there about exercise and nutrition and more advanced, detailed concepts about how to apply some of this stuff that is really more geared toward coaches and trainers and wellness coaches and that type of thing, doctors, et cetera. But I felt like it needed to be included somewhere. It didn't go in the book, so I made this whole section of additional download material. So there's a lot of that stuff, and it does present a good framework, not just for the individual to have a framework and tool set to. Sorry, I don't know if you can hear that, but there's somebody sawing a
No,
tree
can't hear
down.
it. No,
Okay,
I can't hear it at all.
somebody sawing a tree down on the other side of the road.
No, no,
So it's loud for me. So
no, I can't
to
hear it
provide
anymore.
a framework for individuals to make those decisions and evaluate where they are and what information they're looking at and develop context for themselves, but also a way for professionals who have clients to say, how do I evaluate my client and determine what options I have from the toolboxes that I've developed that will work best for them where they're going. So that's absolutely a part of the reason I wrote the book as well.
Yeah, I think every trainer should pick up this book. Every person who's looking for like a lifestyle to follow should get the book. Every trainer out there, if you're a personal trainer, if you're an exercise therapist, should even I think it's a good framework that they can adopt. If you're anybody who's interested in a system to deliver sort of quality coaching, I think it's also a pretty good resource. Well, let's talk about the questions that are unanswered in the ketogenic space, because I know that's
Oh
something you're also
gosh.
passionate about. Because
Yeah.
you're not just like you're also thinking the next 5 years, 10 years, what are we going to do to grow this field? So I
Mhm.
want to get that into podcast form because I know that's how you
Okay, we're
think.
gonna nerd out a little bit. Yeah.
Yeah, let's
So
nerd out a little bit.
the biggest question that I have right now has to do with the ketogenic process itself. I think there's a lot of misconception and misunderstandings that as I've researched and read and looked into what I think some of the misconceptions that the general population has about keto has kind of led me down a little bit of a rabbit hole of like, do we really even understand keto from a scientific perspective? And I don't think we do. I think we have a general understanding, but I think there's some things under the covers that we're not looking into yet. And just to elucidate on that a little bit, word of the day, by the way, um, is okay. We know that being ketogenic means that our body is primarily running on ketones, the production of ketones, and the utilization of ketones. So the chasing, and this is the biggest thing that I see people getting stuck on, is the chasing of ketones doesn't determine whether you're ketogenic or not. It's the production and the utilization of ketones. So I've been carnivore for almost 7 years. My ketones, if they get to a 0.5, is high. I run on 0.2, 0.3, sometimes a 0.4, but my every average day thing, I'm never above a 1. If I'm at a 1, it's because I did something different than I would normally do. And I know this because number one, for the first 6.5 years, I never checked my ketones. But over the past couple of months, I've been testing my ketones almost daily. And in the past 45 days, I've been over one time. And it was after I had a very high fat meal for dinner right before I went to bed. And I tested right before I went to bed. It was a few hours before, and I had my ketones were at a 1. You don't have to have high ketones to be ketogenic. Okay, the definition of ketosis means you have more ketones than your body can utilize. So the idea of minimum effective dose, what do I actually need to see the benefit, is part of the conversation that I don't think people are having. Everyone's stuck on, I need to be over 3, I need to be in ketosis in order to see benefit. Well, could you see the same benefit of being ketogenic at 0.4, 0.5, 0.6, 0.7, 1? Why are you eating all this fat to try to be at a number because that's what someone said is therapeutic? Where's that self-evaluation?
I think, here's the hard part, right? Also, like, it matters what's the end point, right? Am I preventing seizure? Am I preventing migraines?
Yes.
Am I trying to heal my brain?
Yes.
Am I trying to heal nerves? Am I trying to lose weight? Right? And what does my body feel like is my normal weight versus what does my vanity think is my normal weight?
That's a whole nother, we could do a whole video on,
right?
There is no such thing as a healthy weight. That's a whole nother discussion, right?
So our bodies may think healthy is like, 2 inches bigger than my waist wants to be, right?
Sure.
So then I want to be, right? So like when it's beach season, I'm gonna lose 10 pounds.
Mm-hmm.
That's just what I'm gonna do.
Sure.
Right. But during the winter months, I may be 10 pounds heavier. And I know you fluctuate like that too.
Yeah, I'm cutting right now.
Yeah. So I think I think that's one of the problems is what's the end point?
What's the end point? And yeah, exactly. And understanding that no matter what you're looking at, whether it's a method, a principle, a protocol, any specific thing that you're evaluating, it has to be evaluated in the context of what are you trying to do and how is it working? And I think that's the piece that people miss. Everyone hears, oh, you need to be at 3 to be in ketosis. Okay, well, I got to be at 3 because air quotes ketosis gives me this. Well, ketosis is anything over 0.3. So you could get the same benefit again from a 0.7 or a 0.6. Why are you doing this giant jump to be at some number that someone said? Is 0.5, 0.6, 0.7 working for you? Are you seeing the improvement you're looking for? Then why are you doing more? And the whole discussion about extremes and not understanding minimum effective dose, I think that's one of the key factors I talk about in the book too, is we need to start looking at the minimum change we need to make, not the most extreme change that we can make, because extreme changes don't last long. Small changes are more sustainable. So that's another aspect of the change process. Getting back to the science and the stuff undercover, the big thing without kind of drawing this out, the big thing that I'm looking at is a lot of the studies, pretty much all of the studies that we have on the ketogenic diet have to do with fat adaptation. And I have not seen many or any that break down the difference between fat adaptation and actual keto adaptation. Meaning, we equate all of the improvements of being fat adapted to fatty acid oxidation. There is nothing that we have in the science that says what's actually happening with the ketone metabolism and what part of ketone metabolism are we actually mixing in when we talk about fatty acid oxidation. Because I think my theory is that there is a separation and there are two different aspects of that. And I think we're making a mistake bundling it all into fat. I think there's another aspect of the ketolytic pathway, ketolysis, and how we actually metabolize and utilize ketones that we're missing in the big picture. And that's where I'd love to get more research done.
I can't wait for that. And I know you're working on it, and I know you're going to do it. Definitely going to do it. Looking forward to that. Well, Anything to close this off before any topic you want to bring up before we wrap up this
Gosh,
podcast?
man. No, I just want everyone to realize that there is no such thing as a healthy weight. Your weight does not determine your health. Your quality of life, your personal freedom, and your ability to engage in your physical environment is what you should be focused on. And it's not your weight that's holding you back. Weight is a symptom of a leaky tub. Let's fix the leaky tub, and then the weight and all the other things will take care of itself.
Amen. Where can people reach you, Coach?
Just Google Coach Bronson, and hopefully my stuff comes up if Google's working properly. But you can find me on my website, coachbronson.com. I'm on Instagram at coach.bronson and YouTube at coach.bronson. And you can find the book Body Confident. By the time this comes out, it'll be live and launched. So just look up Body Confident on Amazon. It'll be Kindle, paperback, hardcover, and Audible at the same time.
Awesome. Can't wait for it. I can't wait. I'm definitely gonna get the Audible. I just like to hear things again. I love hearing the audio book, you know.
I've got some
Anyway.
work to do. It's probably not the best because I'm not the best at recording, but hey, we'll see how it goes.
That's all right. I'm sure it's going to be fine. Thank you again, Coach.
Appreciate it.
If you enjoy the show, please consider supporting us on Patreon by going to lowcarbmd.com.